Good morning and welcome to our webinar this morning on programs of study. For some reason we weren't at the beginning, so let's try this again. Good morning. Welcome to our webinar this morning on what is a program of study. My name is Amy Julian. I'm the director for the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support at Illinois State University, and I'd like to welcome you all. All of the attendees are currently in listen-only mode. If you do have questions, there are two options. You can raise your hand and I will call on you, or you can post a question in the question box or in the chat pane, and then I will go ahead and pause at different times for questions. So with that, in the interest of keeping everyone on time and in time, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'd like to welcome you all today. Thank you for attending. As we've been looking at this, I see this as being kind of a two-part series. This first part is what is a program of study. Many of you have been part of programs of study for quite some time, but I want to kind of review it for everyone and let you know what has changed basically since 2006 when programs of study was first discussed. So a little bit of background about who I am and what I do. The Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support creates, supports, delivers professional development for career and technical and adult education professionals across Illinois. ICSPS technical assistance, provides technical assistance, develops publications, and facilitates program improvement strategies for our partners as they relate to college transition, recruitment, retention, and completion, encouraging achievement of special population learners. I like to say in a nutshell, ICSPS supports the community college system and the workforce system in anything that really has to do with access, equity, and transition. Those are our big buckets. So if we're looking at access, equity, and transition, we provide technical assistance, publications, facilitation, all kinds of wonderful things for the system around those areas. So that's a little bit about who we are if you weren't aware. A little bit of history, looking at really what we're talking about with programs of study. So the Perkins Act in 2006, so let's go back in time about 12 years with me. The Perkins Act of 2006 calls upon the states to create sequences of academic and career and technical education courses to help students attain a post-secondary degree or industry recognized credential or certificate, otherwise known as a program of study. This was a term that really came out of the federal legislation. It is something that was, interestingly, one of the most debated 3 words that have ever been in public policy or educational policy for that matter. And really it was very interesting, not terribly different from the previous tech prep, but at the same time creating a lot of issue because of how it's named. Programs of study have different connotations at the university and post-secondary level, but also at the same time really looking at what it means. So at that point, and what is in the law is that it is at minimum, according to the definition put forth by Perkins, it must incorporate and align secondary and post-secondary educational elements. It must include academic and CTE content in coordinated, non-duplicative progression of courses. And it must offer opportunities, where appropriate, for secondary students to acquire post-secondary credit, i.e. what we call dual credit or dual enrollment in the state of Illinois. It must lead to an industry recognized credential or certificate at the post-secondary level or as an associate or baccalaureate degree. So that's what a program of study is, and those are the components of a program of study. Now, I'm not just going to do a 3-minute webinar, so we're going to dive a little deeper into this, but I wanted you to understand where that came from. And a lot of it is rooted, for those of you who are around, in those eras of tech prep and the tech prep sequence of courses. But in 2006 is really when we first see this terminology, and this has been transcendent onto the 2018 legislation that we're seeing now. My 3 favorite words, and I have been chanting this forever now: collaborate, coordinate, and communicate. This is essential for programs of study. This is essential for the future of CTE. If you're aware or have been a part of any work with Perkins 5, we have to collaborate, we have to coordinate, and we have to communicate. There are pockets of the state. There are those of you on this call who said, yes, we do that great. Amy, we are knocking it out of the park. I meet with my secondary partners. I meet with my post-secondary partners. Everyone gets together. We all coordinate and collaborate and communicate, and we work for the best interest of the students. Awesome. Fantastic. Very excited that that is happening. There are other parts of the state, though, that that's not exactly happening. And those are the areas that we really want to focus on. As we look at Perkins 5, there is a lot of things that are going to be a little bit different. There is a reemergence of the emphasis on the partnership between secondary and post-secondary. They have to work together. It is required for them to complete a local needs assessment together and decide how they want to put their resources, allocate their resources, work with their funding, all of those fun things. So that essential partnership is re-emphasized in Perkins 5. There are also some new players to the field, new people at our party, if you will, and that is adult education is one of those new named partners. In addition to that, we've always had a very close relationship with business, and the role of business being integrated into career and technical education is again emphasized in Perkins 5. So the collaboration, communication, and coordination, I read those out of order that time, are really essential to, as I say, the essential to programs of study. They're also essential to the future of CTE. So programs of study, if you kind of looked at what we just said, what those fundamental components are, what do? They bring together educational systems. And when you're looking at educational systems, these are the big systems. These are the partners that need to be at your table. Elementary and middle school educators, high school, secondary educators, post-secondary, your community colleges, your universities in some cases, but your post-secondary institutions. Adult education was named as a partner in 2006. It's really re-emphasized as a partner through IET, ICAPS models in the 2018 legislation. And then business and industry, big proponent of the partnership. And again, distinctively different from WIOA, which is business-led. This is integrated with business, and those are different concepts. But again, we've been doing that for a long time. We've had our advisory committees. We've had our work that we've done with business to make CTE successful. So we're really well positioned for these new recommendations. So what does it mean to be in a collaborative partnership? And that's what I kind of alluded to at the beginning. We're going to have another series or another webinar on partnership and what it means to be a partner. We're going to touch a little bit on it today, but I also wanted to get into some other fun things today. So what does it mean to be engaged in a collaborative partnership? It means there's an understanding of that partnership itself. A lot of times we do that through an MOU or other mechanisms, but there's an understanding of who is part of the partnership and then what are the roles of those individuals within the partnership. We need to choose appropriate clusters, pathways based on economic workforce needs. That again is re-emphasized in Perkins 5. We're going to be looking at our labor market information, and we're going to be saying, what does that labor market information tell us? Please understand that this is distinctly different than WIOA. WIOA is part of that, and they are involved, but they are not approving your programs or grants or anything. So it is more of, they are more of what you would call someone at the table, but not necessarily specifically required in the partnership. They're encouraged to be worked with. Curriculum development. When you're looking at your curriculum between secondary and post-secondary, what does that look like? What are those opportunities there? And then identifying teaching and learning strategies that really improve secondary and post-secondary connections. That secondary and post-secondary connection, again, very important as we move forward. There are going to be definite requirements to work together. A collaborative partnership also engages students, engages business, community outreach, and has outgoing or ongoing professional development, and then goes back and looks at evaluation. Many of you have been part of that PTR process, Pathways to Results, where that idea of continuous improvement through evaluation and through reflection and through that equity lens have all been essential. So again, Illinois is well positioned, but it's nice. It's a nice re-examination of what that partnership means. I see that we do have a question, so I'm going to pause real quick here and address that question. Oh, yes, the PowerPoint slides will be available as well as the recording following the presentation. I'll be honest, it'll probably take me till next week to get that to you, but you will get it very soon. And it'll be posted on our website. Understanding the partnership itself. This is really important, not only for programs of study in CTE, but also just for understanding the dynamic of the partnership. And again, Illinois is a big state. If you look at where we hit longitudinally across the country and the northern part of the state versus the southern part of the state, we are a vast state in geography, but also in dimension and diversity. And in looking at that, we want to have balance with a variety of stakeholders. We want to be sure that, again, everyone understands their role, which is that shared mission, vision, and vision to outline basic elements of the partnership. But we also want to be sure that we have a balance in that variety of stakeholders, that everyone is at the table and those people have representation of the constituency that they represent at the table. It is encouraged, if not required, to operate under an MOU that defines the roles and responsibilities of the members. And again, that shared governance is really important with secondary and post-secondary. So we're going to look into a deeper dive of definitions now. I do want to pause. I don't see any questions popping up, but I do want to pause real quick and see if there are any questions or comments. Anyone needs to raise their hand, they can let me know. Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and keep moving forward. So if you're not aware, the two major partner agencies when you're looking at Perkins 5 are the Illinois State Board of Education and the ICCB. And those are the two agencies that are kind of walking the walk, not kind of, they are. They're walking the walk and talking the talk when it comes to collaboration at the state level. So they're coming together to create and then we'll implement our statewide plan. And so there's a lot of partnership and collaboration that is happening at all levels. And we'd like to mirror that collaboration and partnership at the local level and at the college level and at the EFE level. All of those different levels need to have that idea of partnership between the secondary and post-secondary system, which for the state of Illinois at the state level is the Illinois State Board of Education and the Illinois Community College Board. So one of the exciting things that happened is a few years ago we got together, and I say we, but there was a lot of individuals involved, and talked about defining career pathway, because the term career pathway is now just not a CTE term. Career pathway is used in all sectors of public education and is really representative of the entire system of education. So when looking at a career pathway, you have a combination of rigorous and high quality education, training, and other services that align both vertically and horizontally across secondary education, adult education, workforce training and development, career and technical education, and post-secondary education systems, pathways, and programs. Very comprehensive in their definition here. Collaborative partnerships with these entities in business and industry, along with human service agencies, corrections, and other community stakeholders serve as the foundational structure for high quality and sustainable career pathways. A career pathway also includes multiple entry and exit points to facilitate individuals to build their skills as they progress along the continuum of education and training and advance in sector-specific employment. This definition can be found in the Career Pathway Dictionary, and if you have not seen that document, I can share that with you. It really does relate to the idea of career pathways, which is also essential in understanding programs of study. So a career pathway as defined by that dictionary aligns with the skills and needs of industry in the economy of the state, regional economy involved. Again, that idea of we're going to be looking at labor market information for programs of study all ties together. Prepares an individual to be successful in a full range of secondary or post-secondary educational options, including apprenticeship, registered under the National Apprenticeship Act. Includes counseling to support an individual achieving the individual's educational career goals. Includes, as appropriate, education offered concurrently with and in the same context as workforce preparation activities and training for specific occupations or occupational cluster. Organizes education, training, and other services to meet the particular needs of an individual in a manner that accelerates the educational and career advancement in the individual to content practicably, I added a LE to that word, and enables an individual to attain secondary school diploma or is recognized equivalent and at least one recognized post-secondary credential, and helps the individual enter or advance through a specific occupation or occupational cluster. So one of the things I want to make sure we're aware of is we speak to clusters, we speak to pathways, and we speak to programs of study. And the cluster is that larger umbrella area. The pathway are those areas that are a little bit more defined at institutions or defined for the students. And then the program of study is that sequence of courses. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the national level says about programs of study here in just a second. So the Career and Technical Education Programs of Study has a design framework that has come out. It was put together around 2011 around programs of study, and it really talks about what a program of study components are and how those look at the local level for a program of study. The Carl Perkins and Technical Education Act of 2006 called for states to offer career and technical education programs of study. They may be adopted by local educational agencies and post-secondary institutions as an option for students. One of the things with your Perkins grant is you're required to have at least one program of study and define that program of study through the program of study expectation tool. Now, I will tell you that as part of Perkins 5, we are reinventing that tool, not necessarily reinventing, but giving it a fresher look, and making sure that it is up to date with all of the requirements and changes, but there are not many requirements and changes around programs of study. So just making sure that we're aware of the climate that exists now versus 2011, because it's been a while. These programs at a minimum must incorporate an aligned secondary and post-secondary educational element. They must include academic and career and technical education content and coordinate a non-duplicative process of courses, progression of courses. They must offer opportunity where appropriate for secondary students to acquire post-secondary credit, and they must lead to an industry-recognized credential. Now, we've said this already, but I want to be sure you understand that because we're going to talk about some components of that. Because what occurred was the Office of Career and Technical Education and Adult Education, which at that time was called the Office of Vocational Education and Adult Education, OVE, worked in collaboration with major national organizations, and they came up with 10 components that taken together support the development and implementation of program of study. Although all 10 components are very important, they are neither independent nor of equal priority. States and local developers must and can identify the most pressing components for our states, and then I'll give you some ideas as we close this session as to what Illinois has taken in as our priority. So here is the operational definition from the feds of a program of study. A program of study is a comprehensive structured approach for delivering academic, career, and technical education to prepare students for post-secondary education and career success. Illinois, when we define program of study, there are a sequence of courses that incorporate non-duplicative progression of secondary and post-secondary elements in which include both academic and career and technical education content. Programs of study should start no later than the 9th grade and continue through at least 2 years of post-secondary education. Programs of study include opportunities to earn college credit, i.e. dual credit, in high schools and industry recognized credential certificate at the secondary and post-secondary level, and an associate's or baccalaureate degree. So that is something that's really important and essential to understand with programs of study, is it can culminate in a certificate, post-secondary associate's degree, or a baccalaureate degree. There is also a strong push and understanding for stackable credentials so that those certificates then stack into an associate or baccalaureate degree option. So with that said, I want to kind of take us back to this framework, and the framework comes into different areas, and I'm just going to roll over them for you, and then we'll come back and investigate them. Legislation and policies, partnership, professional development, accountability and evaluation systems, college and career readiness standards, course sequences, credit transfer agreements, guidance, counseling and academic advisement, teaching and learning strategies, and finally, technical skill assessments. So those are their 10, and let's kind of just explore what those 10 mean. So legislative and policy is federal and state local legislation or administrative policies promote program of study development and implementation. Effective legislation and policy should provide state and local funding and other resources such as professional development and dedicated staff for programs of study development. It must establish formal procedures for the design, implementation, and continuous improvement of programs of study, and ensure opportunities for secondary students to participate in programs of study. Required secondary students to develop an individual graduation or career plan and provide resources for long-term sustainability of programs of study. So that's really what we're looking at in policy level. As we move forward, partnerships. Again, we've talked about partnerships, and this is such an integral part. I'm going to be offering a special webinar on partnerships and what partnerships mean for Perkins 5, but it is an integral part as highlighted here. Ongoing relationships among education, business, and other community stakeholders are essential and central to program of study design, implementation, and maintenance. So when we talk about that partnership, we talk about all those educational entities in addition to community stakeholders and business are essential to the design, implementation, and maintenance of programs of study. A collaborative partnership should include written memorandum of understanding, which we've talked about a little bit here, ongoing analysis of economic and workforce trends, identified statewide or regional programs of study to be created and expanded and discontinued. That's done at your local level in the state of Illinois. Just so you know, this is the national model. That's done at the local level here. Linked to existing initiatives that promote workforce and economic development, such as sector strategies and other activities. And then identify, validate, and keep current the technical workforce readiness skills that should be taught within programs of study. That is that essential component of business in your advisory boards. That is that idea that business will come and say, this is the making sure that everything that you're teaching our students is current and relevant and validated for workforce readiness needs. The third component, professional development. Perkins, both 4 and 5, but it was really emphasized in 4, called for sustained, intensive, and focused opportunities for administrators, teachers, and faculty that foster program of study implementation and maintenance. In Perkins 4, there was a big push and an intentional highlight on the idea that professional development could no longer be a one and done kind of deal, that it needed to be attached and continued. If you look at the model that's been implemented by the Illinois Community College Board, we have the Forum for Excellence, and then we have the Regional Professional Development Network that follows, including webinars and face-to-face activities through the rest of the year. And that sequence, that pattern has been involved since 2006 or 2007, building on the Forum for Excellence that started, I want to say back in like 2002, and I should know that, I know. But effective professional development supports the alignment of curriculum from grades 9 through 12 and from secondary to post-secondary. Vertical curriculum alignment needs to be evident and also supported with professional development in programs of study. It supports the development of integrated academic and career and technical curriculum and instruction, that horizontal curriculum alignment. So not only are you talking as a community college instructor, you're not only talking to your secondary partners, but you're also talking horizontally to other individuals in your institution to make sure you have integrated academic, career, and technical education curriculum. So teaching that math in CTE, where do you have creative or critical or technical writing in your career and technical education courses? Professional development needs to be provided to ensure that teachers, faculty have the content knowledge to align and integrate curriculum instruction. So how does that integration happen? And what are those professional development opportunities that you can provide for your faculty and teachers to get them on the same page and have those opportunities for dialogue, which in this day and age when we are all so busy, it is important to have those important conversations. And then foster innovation, teaching, and learning strategies. And we'll talk about that when we get to number 9 below. So the next level is one that, again, we've had in Perkins since the 1990 reauthorization, and it's accountability and evaluation systems. And this is something that, for most of you on this call, is really ICCB looking over us here and assisting us in this endeavor. Systems and strategies to gather qualitative and quantitative data in both programs of study components and student outcomes are crucial for ongoing efforts to develop and implement programs of study. One of the things that we really want to look at is what are those systems that we have. And with Perkins 5, there's an emphasis again on that secondary, post-secondary collaboration. So a well-designed accountability system and evaluation system includes 10 essential elements of a state longitudinal data system, which we have in Illinois. Pat ourselves on the back, do a nice woohoo, we've got that. It provides administrators records of matching students and education employment data, which again, we work really well with IDES to provide that data. So we're well positioned there. And then it yields valid and reliable data on key student outcomes or indicators. And again, if you're not aware, those core indicators do change for Perkins 5, but I understand that that's a whole separate webinar, so we're not going to dive into that today. And then provide timely data and evaluation to improve the effectiveness of programs of study. For Illinois, in a lot of areas, that last bullet is done through your POS self-assessment, your programs of study self-assessment, looking at where you are, how much time, how much improvement or progress you have made, and then what are those areas for continuous improvement. When you're working on your Perkins plans, which many of you were just at a meeting yesterday learning about, that is part of your PIP. Where are those areas that you need to be doing those program improvement processes or plans for? The fifth element is college and career readiness standards, content standards that define what students are expected to know and be able to do to enter advance in college or the career that they comprise of a foundation of program of study elements. Rigorous college and career readiness standards should be developed and continually validated in collaboration with secondary and post-secondary industry partners. They should incorporate essential knowledge and skills, academic skills, communication skills. We have the Essential Employability Skills Framework. If you have not seen that document, I encourage you to look it up online. I can also send that. Let me make a note to send the EES as well as the Career Pathway Dictionary to all of you when we share the resources, because then I know you have it. It's available online. It's also available in print in a lovely little booklet that you can take to your holiday celebrations and share with family and friends. Next bullet there is to provide the same rigor, knowledge, and skills in English and mathematics that employers and colleges expect in high school graduates, incorporate industry-recognized technical standards, and extend practical, be it international benchmarks, so that students are prepared to succeed in a global economy. That continues to be a focus in Perkins 5, how we can prepare our students to achieve and succeed in a global economy. So course sequences. Again, we've described these as non-duplicative. Sequences of secondary and post-secondary courses with a program of study ensure that students' transition to post-secondary education is without duplication and that classes require and do not require any remedial coursework. So a good program of study, those students will transition seamlessly, and that lovely term of seamless transition, again, has been around through the ages when referring to programs of study and then also through tech prep. But what does a well-developed course sequence, what should it include? It should map out recommendations for academic, career, and technical education courses in a program of study. If you have not seen, there are several, I call them egg crate documents that you can look at as to what programs of study are. If you are joining us and are part of an ICAPS IET program, those are required for that as well. They just have that pre-area before entering the program of study as what that coursework looks like. And again, that egg crate, that idea of how does the student move through this sequence that is mapped out on the recommended career and academic and career and technical education courses. A good course sequence should begin with an introductory course at the secondary level that teaches broad foundational knowledge and skills and that are common across that program of study. Progress to more occupational specific courses and post-secondary level that provides knowledge and skills required for entry into an advancement in a chosen program of study. And the course sequence needs to offer opportunities for students to earn post-secondary credit for coursework taken during high school. In addition to that, I want you to consider, does your course offer multiple entry and exit points. That is key to a good sequence of courses, that they have opportunities to possibly get a certificate and leave, but then because it's a stackable credential, come back for an associate's and then go out into the workforce and be a contributing member of society and then say, oh, you know what, I want to come back for my baccalaureate. So those multiple levels of entry and exit are very strongly stressed in Perkins 5, and I want you to be aware of that. The next level there is credit transfer agreements. Again, Illinois, we do this pretty well. We have IAI, we're in good shape, but credit transfer provides opportunities for secondary students to be awarded transcripted post-secondary credit supported with formal agreements among secondary and post-secondary educational systems. All of this falls under IAI, so I'm going to run through this pretty quickly. They're based on state and local guidance. They ensure that the guidance for counseling, advisement, and our professionals have up-to-date information. They offer information and tools to help students. They offer resources for students to identify their career, interest, aptitude, and select the appropriate program of study. They provide information and resources for parents to help their children prepare for college and career, and those are those two bullets that really fall on the local constituency, and they offer web-based resources and tools for obtaining student financial assistance. As we move into number 8 in the framework, we're looking at teaching and learning strategies. This does tie back with professional development again, but being an effective teacher, looking at school counseling, academic advising, help students make informed decisions by which and what program of study to pursue. It is important to note that when I believe it was Advanced CTE did a study with, I want to say the Carnegie Institution, but they looked at what are the major touch points, what are those areas that have students or most influencing students. The first is parents. The second is counselors, school counselors, academic advisors. There is a lot of touch points that we have with academic advising and counseling that I really want to be sure we're touching on. And I see that I'm got ahead of myself there. So guidance, counseling, and academic advising are based on state and local guidance. We should ensure that guidance, counseling, and advisement professionals have access to up-to-date information. That goes with having them as part of your planning team, having them as part of your Perkins team. Offer resources to students to advise their career interest areas and provide information and resources for parents to have their children prepare for college and careers. Number 9 is teaching and learning strategies. If you've heard anybody talk about Perkins 5, the thing that they all are saying, because the feds are chanting it as loud as they can, is be bold and be innovative. Be bold and be innovative when thinking about CTE. Be bold and be innovative when looking at how your state has always done things. Be bold and be innovative for our students. Teaching and learning strategies are innovative and creative instructional approaches that enable teachers to integrate academic and technical instruction and allow students to apply academic and technical learning in their program of study coursework. Effective teaching and learning strategies should be jointly led by an interdisciplinary teaching team of academic and career and technical education faculty. It should employ contextualized, work-based, project-based, problem-based learning approaches, and it should incorporate team building, critical thinking, problem-solving, communication skills, such as those used through the career and technical education student organizations. Number 10, and this is the last one in the framework, so I want to just let you know that technical skill attainment is national, state, and local assessment provides ongoing information to extend to which students are attaining the necessary knowledge and skills for entering into advancement of post-secondary education. Again, well-developed technical skill attainment would be measured student attainment, employ industry-approved technical skill assessments, employ state-developed and or approved assessments where industry-approved assessment does not exist, and incorporate performance-based assessments to the greatest extent possible. So that is number 10 in the framework. I do want to ask and pause there if there are any questions or any hands up about what the national framework around programs of study includes. Okay, so now I want you to be thinking, I won't make you all talk because it is a webinar, but I want you to be thinking about who is on your team and what makes an effective team. Because you need a team approach to developing a program of study. When you sit down with your program of study expectation tool and you say, okay, who am I bringing to the table? Who is our leadership team? Who is our charter team? Whatever you want to name them. I was using Marvel tendencies yesterday because that was a bit, who's in your realm, who's in your universe. I don't care what you call it, but what makes an effective team is really important because you need to look at these components. Do you have leadership? In the state of Illinois, the emphasis has been and will continue to be on shared secondary and post-secondary responsibility and leadership at both the state and local level. So do you have shared leadership? State and local representation is important, and this is really for the state focusing on the local. Do you have local representation? Are you looking at those individuals that are part of your community when looking at programs of study that impact your community? Bring in business and industry. All of you have to have advisory committees. Those advisory committees, if you don't have, there is a great book. I'm biased because we created it, but it is a book around, it's a guidebook for advisory committees. So it gives you some framework. Doesn't tell you exactly what you have to have, but it gives you a guidance as to what makes an effective advisory committee. Be sure you're bringing in business and industry with your leadership team, and early engagement and specific engagement is important. When we talk with business, and I've talked with business a lot and in many different facets lately, it's the idea of what do you want from us and what do we want from you? And there is a shared relationship there. Business does see education as an entity that is part of their need, part of who they turn to, part of who they want to be engaging with. But they have things they want from education. And in most cases, business is very specific as to what it wants from education. Education needs to be equally specific. If you want them to come in and help you with your curriculum, they will if they're asked. So we need to be sure we're asking. If you want them to donate equipment, let them know what it's for and how it's going to be used. But having business part of your committee and your team around a program of study early, bringing them into the advisory committee early is really essential. And at the same time, being specific in what you want to ask. I will say, I've been in education now for almost 20 years now. And sometimes we digress at meetings to a level that is uncomprehendable to business. So when we do have our business partners in the meetings, be conscious and aware of their time, and that possibly all of our digression can wait until we get from them what they need. Be targeted in your planning. I know many of you have specific, these are my advisory committee meetings, and this is what we're going to talk about, and then we take the curriculum and some of those questions, and we focus questions to bring back to the advisory. That's fantastic. Be aware of the value of their time as they are aware of the value of your time. This last bullet is all capitalized for a reason. Develop shared language and compatible processes. There are a lot of large entities working together to develop an effective program of study. Shared language is essential to everyone knowing what you're talking about and just understanding what's happening at all of the different partners. Because an acronym in some people's worlds mean a different thing than an acronym in your world. If you look at IT terminology versus medical terminology, you have a lot of the same letter combinations, but they mean very different things. So develop a shared and compatible language. Develop a compatible process that works for you at your local level, because that's essential to what makes an effective team. So where to start? There have been a lot of sessions, and if you'd like to look, I can send you some additional stuff, and we will continue through FY20 on professional development around stakeholder engagement. But start with stakeholder engagement. As you're looking to develop new programs of study, make that part of your program review process, make that part of your program assessment process. Look at what is needed. Look at your labor market data. Look at what are those programs that your LWIAs are focusing on, and why are they focusing on them? What are those areas that you want to focus on with a program of study? Bring the people to the table and make sure you have, once you start the party, make sure everyone who needs to be there is there. It is very challenging to say, hey, we developed this whole program of study, business X, and now we'd love some equipment for it, but you weren't involved in it. If you build that stakeholder engagement early, it will help you in developing effective programs of study. So I'm going to pause there before I go into upcoming professional development, because I want to see if there's any questions, comments, or concerns. Any hands up? Anybody who I should call on? It is Thursday, and I'm guessing I just saw a lot of you over the last 2 days. So some upcoming professional development I'm going to run through real quick, and then we will wrap up. Non-traditional occupations, what's new for Perkins 5 will be April 25th. If you're interested in attending, that registration is open, and all of this is available on our website. ICAPS Model 2. When we're talking about programs of study, when we're talking about Perkins 5, and we're talking about building relationships and partnerships, we cannot talk about any of that without discussing ICAPS IETs. So if you're interested in what ICAPS Model 2 is, that is your continuing education partners. So those are industry recognized credentials, not necessarily college credit is what that's ending in. Attend this webinar. If you're interested in Model 1, we already have a fantastic webinar up there, and if you're interested in team teaching, we have a boatload of resources for you. So just wanted to highlight that. Professional development events that are, well, that one, sorry, I apologize. The WIOA Summit is next week. If you are involved and you are a required partner under WIOA, so you are at the table. If you're not at the table in your local LWIA, you need to be at the table, and you need to ask why you're not at the table. The state has developed and is finalizing service integration policy, and service integration and customer-centered design are foundational principles of WIOA. And when you look at service integration, the role of career and technical education is predominant. When you look at service integration and what their end result is for all of their students, it is career and technical education at the post-secondary level, which in 99.9% of the cases means community colleges. So again, I cannot stress enough, if you're not at the table, please find a way to get to the table. See, I got my hands flying back here. Find a way to get to the table, because it is so essential that they understand the role and responsibilities and requirements of the community college. With that being said, next week, April 23rd and 24th, you can still register through tomorrow for that conference. It is available on our website, and if you raise your hand or send me an email, let me know, I can send you the link. Next week, on Friday, we're doing Preparing Students with Autism Spectrum Disorder for College and Career. This is a project that my center has been working with now for 3 years, the Autism Training and Technical Assistance Project, and that project specifically looks at transitioning students with autism into college and career. So what can we do to assist business in better understanding students with autism? What can we do to assist the advising and student services individuals at the college to better assist students with autism? And what can we do to assist faculty who inevitably will have students with autism in their classrooms. It's going to be a great workshop. If you're not able to get in, because I know registration is very tight right now, please, we will have other events later on in the year as well. CTE Counseling Academy, Culturally Responsive Learning. This is the new big equity term, and we are really looking at being culturally responsive. It is no longer, we don't teach tolerance. It's not just lovely to tolerate somebody. You want to actually be able to engage with them and understand where they're coming from. So in the equity world, this is a big deal. May 23rd, we will be in Normal. NAEP, the National Alliance for Partnerships and Equity, will be presenting, and it is a phenomenal workshop. You will get a workbook to take back to your classroom, to your institution, to wherever you want to take it, to your fun 4th of July party, and discuss culturally responsive learning. June 4th, we will be coming back to Bloomington again with the Special Population Symposium. We will be hearing from each of those colleges that received money to enhance student support from the block grants. And then in addition to that, we will be focusing on the new special populations. So for a community college, how do you serve and address students that are homeless? And what are those services that you can provide? And what are those networks that now Perkins having special pops include homeless? What are some networks and some new people that you're going to be partying with there? And then I can never have professional development without stressing the importance of the Forum for Excellence. Right now, the request for presentations is out, and I know some of you are doing fantastic work at your campuses, and I know that you are very busy, but I strongly encourage you to take just a few minutes and submit a request for presentation. I will not call anyone out at this time, but I can see all of your names in my Mr. Rogers window. So I really encourage you to please submit a request for presentation, because otherwise we just come and ask you later, and that just is not as fun. Any questions with the professional development events? What questions do you have for me? I'll give you a minute there to write anything in the chat box, raise your hand, or post a question. Okay, seeing no questions. If you do have a question, I always let you know. We are available. If you have questions that you think of later, or if you're driving home and say, oh my gosh, I really want to figure out this one part of programs of study, please email me. We are here to assist you in any way we can. You also have a fantastic team at ICCB that will be supporting you. They have the CTE team. Natasha, Mary, Nicole, Melissa, all led by Whitney. I don't think I forgot anybody. Please contact them. They are there as a resource for you as well. And enjoy the fact that you have those individuals to work with, because it's a good thing. This is my contact information if you have any questions for me. Closing comments, I just want to let you know, I want to thank you all for attending. Again, the 4 basic components. It has to align secondary and post-secondary. It has to include academic and CTE content that is coordinated and non-duplicative. It has to have opportunities where appropriate for secondary students to acquire post-secondary credit, i.e. it has to have opportunities for dual credit, and it has to lead to an industry-recognized credential or certificate or a post-secondary level associate's or baccalaureate degree. That is what a program of study includes. If you have any other questions, I'm always available to answer those. I want to thank you all for your attention today. And with that, I will close the webinar. Thank you.